I'm Jim Morris. I'm the general manager at Pixar, and we're really excited to be here today to talk about some of the things we're doing in shorts and short-form entertainment. And I've got some of my great filmmaker colleagues that I'm going to introduce in a moment, and I'll talk with them a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing, but we're going to save time at the end to try to answer any questions you might have. I know many of you are fans and knowledgeable about Pixar. Shorts are really important to us. They're really in the DNA of the company. In fact, the very first film that John Lasseter and Ed Catmull made was a short. It was called Andre and Wally B. And it's also the first short that was ever done in computer graphics. So we have this long lineage. For many years, John continued to make shorts. He did it to expand the art of animation and also to push the technology of computer graphics so that we could develop the types of tools that we have today and can tell the types of stories that we're able to tell in Pixar today. So it's really a strong part of the company and something we really believe in. We continue to make a lot of different types of shorts now. I'd say there's maybe 4 categories of shorts we make. We make original theatrical shorts that you see in front of the movies that you go to when you go to the theater. We make shorts for our DVD and Blu-rays that are original, so that there's some special content and stories kind of extend the storytelling in those shorts. We have a series of shorts we make for broadcast and for internet use primarily. And then we also are just starting now, we're going to talk a little bit about it today, to do some TV specials. So that's kind of the range of things we're doing. We have a lot of belief in short form. It's very important to our artists to continue the storytelling of some of the beloved characters and settings we have, but it also allows us to explore new stories and try new characters and new ideas as well. So I've got 4 filmmakers with me today from Pixar. I'm going to start by introducing Galen Sussman. Galen is producing a variety of Toy Story-oriented shorts right now, and is producing our new TV special, Toy Story of Terror. Galen has been at the company a long time and has worn many hats and has been a huge contributor to building the company. She's worked as an animator, as a supervising technical director. She was the associate producer on Ratatouille, and an associate producer at Pixar and in the animation world is a very important job. It's actually very akin to the unit production manager in live action. So it's not like an assistant kind of thing. It's one of the most important producing jobs at the company. So Galen right now is just finishing up work on, as I said, our first TV special, Toy Story of Terror, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Have a seat, and I'll introduce Angus MacLean, who is the director of Toy Story of Terror. Angus also directed Small Fry, a short you may have seen, and Bernie, which was a short on Wally. It was a DVD short. And I had the joy and privilege of working with Angus. He was our lead animation director on Wally when we made it. He has worked on many, many films at Pixar as an animator. Sit down. Next we have Mary Alice Drum. Mary Alice is a very experienced producer in the animation world, and just last year finished working as the associate producer on Brave. And we're very proud of that film and the work she did on that. Mary Alice is now overseeing the production of a variety of cartoons. She oversees the work at Pixar Canada. Pixar Canada is a production part of Pixar, a production pipeline up in Vancouver that exists solely, actually, to work on short form material for us. And so Mary Alice oversees the creative work on that is actually then physically produced up there. And last, I'd like to introduce Rob Gibbs. Rob has the distinction of being the director of almost all of the Cars-Toon shorts. I've worked with Rob on other projects, Wally, and he has served as
It's not funny if I do it.
Right.
That was good.
Everybody's got black on.
I know.
He worked in story on the original Cars film, and since then has been creating and directing our cartoons. So that's the folks we have today. They're the ones that are most actively engaged in our shorts production here. And I'm going to ask them some questions just to get things going. We're going to try to show a couple little clips of things just to remind you of some of the stuff and maybe show a couple things you haven't seen before. We actually got permission at the last minute to show the entire new Star Wars movie, but there's not enough time in the theater today, so we're just going to have to do it another time. Galen, you have been involved in so much long-form production in so many ways. What do you like about working on taking the sort of great stories and settings and worlds and working on them in the short form?
Short form work is it's so much fun. You get to work with a smaller crew. Everything's a little bit more intimate. Everybody gets to wear somebody's signaling. Should I sit closer to the mic? Is that better for you? Thank you. Good.
Or we can boom it over to you.
Ooh, danger.
How's that? Is that better? I'll be over here, let me know.
To work with him on a regular basis, which is really awesome. Trust me. Where were we?
Well,
yes. Well, so short form, smaller crews. As a producer, that's an enormously satisfying thing. You've got, everybody can be in at least a theater together, which is really a wonderful thing, and working together and wearing multiple hats. And as Jim said, I've been at Pixar a long time. I've worn a lot of hats myself and have a pretty broad understanding of our pipeline. And so it's really wonderful that I can engage each of the artists on a regular basis when you're doing that short form work. Features, it's a big thing, and you lose
5 years.
You lose some of your people in the process sometimes. I feel like you don't have that kind of relationship with everybody.
we actually have a little clip from Hawaiian Vacation. Did anybody see Hawaiian Vacation? For those of you who didn't, there's a little clip of it here. We just wanted to try to give you a flavor of it, if we could roll that.
Well, certainly with the legacy shorts like Toy Story, there are approximately 30 to 40 main characters. And you can't pay them off all the time in the short form. So you have to kind of figure out what your window, your sandbox is going to be for ultimate success. And you figure out what story you're going to tell, like what you're trying to tell, what you're trying to make a movie about, and then figure out what characters in the Toy Story universe you want to use. And then you want to figure out what jokes you want, so you pull in the side characters for additional jokes. For example, on the Toy Story of Terror, we're using a lot of Mr. Pricklepants to be the commentary about what's going on, and because of his character, that seemed to work well for the story. So.
Actually, while you're talking about Toy Story of Terror, it's the first project we've done in this genre. It's our first horror film. Talk a little bit about the ideas working in that milieu.
Well, for me, I'm more of a thriller fan, than straight like slasher horror fan. So there are some tropes we looked at a lot of horror films and thought a lot about what were specifically genre elements we wanted to have in the movie, but also have it be something that was for general audiences. But basically, there was a way to make a movie where you could kill off all of the characters. That was actually a really interesting goal. So I think that was what really kind of drew me to it, and I was excited about finding a way to do this kind of 10 Little Indians idea of setting up a bunch of characters and then picking them off one by one. So that was kind of
Galen, it's the first TV special we've ever done, and obviously broadcast television has time lengths and there's constraints like that. How's that affected sort of the production and has it presented different sorts of challenges from more typical?
It's really fun. It's interesting that, first of all, with a half-hour television special, we're basically telling a story in 4 pieces and 4 acts, if you want to think of it that way, instead of 3. So I think from a storytelling perspective, that in and of itself is really a very different way to structure looking at the film. Having a fixed time as a producer is pretty dreamy, because you don't have to say, look, we don't have the money to produce 10 more minutes of this thing. It's dictated for you. So you get to sort of focus on other more interesting problems than being the whip cracker on the time frame.
Angus, the last thing you did before this director was Small Fry, right?
Yeah, Small Fry.
Has everybody seen Small Fry? Have you seen it? We have a little clip we can show for those of you who haven't. Do you want to set it up, the clip?
The story is about a miniature Happy Meal, kids fun meal toy version, a non-litigious children's meal toy that would not be, it's a healthy, in no way negative meal that anyway has a toy in it, and in no way is selling the meal, it's healthy. So anyway, the small toy that looks just like Buzz Lightyear, except for he's much smaller, kind of a super deformed Buzz Lightyear. And he's gone back to Bonnie's room and kind of switched places in kind of a Prince and the Pauper type scenario. So here he is back in Bonnie's room with the rest of the Toy Story.
Mary Alice, you have recently started last year or so running the shorts group at Pixar Canada. So going from feature production to running, well, actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about the setup and how that works, and then tell us what the new challenges are that you've faced coming from running a big feature to doing a multiple group of smaller projects.
Yeah, I think like Inglis and Galen were saying, like being on a feature you're on for such a long time, so brave, very proud of that movie, great experience. But that's 3 years of thinking in Scotland, eating a lot of haggis. And I think going to shorts is really exciting because you get to work with these great characters. I'm a huge fan of Toy Story and Cars characters, and work in these different genres. And one of the exciting parts about working in the toon side is you have several different directors. Like obviously we just watched a short that Angus had done, and Rob is the director I get to work with. So taking all these different directors and kind of creating one team with also a studio in Vancouver. So it's all these different pieces and trying to bring everyone together as a team. But we do all the storyboarding and the edit and the art in Emeryville. And then the Canada team takes it from layout and goes through lighting, animation, all the way to final render. And we end up video conferencing a lot and talking a lot. And it's a lot about communicating.
We have a little piece of a Cars tune that Mary Alice produced recently. I don't think we have the whole thing. Do you want to set up what's going on in it?
Yeah, it's just a really fun Cars clip. It's Guido is spinning a sign to help Luigi with some advertising. And it was one of the first things I worked on after Brave, and I just love how fun it is. And I love that it's Italian rap music and a car spinning a sign.
Go ahead, Walnut. Rob, I mentioned that you've directed the preponderance of the Cars tunes that we've made, and you were actually the person who got the thing rolling in the first place, and working with John Lasseter to get the first ones. Can you tell us a little bit about how that got started, what the evolution of that was?
The origins?
Yeah.
I just have to point out one thing. This is really echoey up here. Is it okay out there? Echo? Echo? Okay. So yeah, John wanted to expand the world of Cars and keep our characters alive, and let's put them in new environments and new scenarios. The idea came up that Mater would tell a tale about how he was a fire truck or he's an astronaut. And so we just presented ideas and started with 3, and then we did another 3, and then 4, and I think we've done about 11 so far.
Yeah. We actually, that conceit you said with Mater, kind of the tall tales things, become sort of the backbone of that series, and we have a little montage that has some of the bits from that. Why don't we go ahead and run that, and we'll come back and talk about some other stuff. Well, it's interesting in looking at those, because it's clear you had a kind of conceit that dictated a structure for that's sort of different from the longer form. And I know that you've been inspired by some of the classic Looney Tunes work and some of the Warner Brothers stuff. Can you talk a little bit about what are the differences, kind of as a creative in terms of doing the short form that you bring to it structurally and creatively?
Yeah, structurally, I guess it's with these tall tales. What was great was it took us a while to figure out how we wanted to tell these, and so John Lasseter had the idea of, and actually Bobby Podesta pitched the idea of Mater telling tall tales. And John wanted to keep Lightning McQueen involved, so we came with the "you were there too" scenario. So that kind of helped us with the structure. And very, you know, kind of like Looney Tunes and just gag, and then you end it. There's not a lot of time to really get emotion and story structure, but they are structured, but really just kind of going for laughs.
So, Galen, you've worked on so many Toy Story pieces over the years. Do you feel a burden, a responsibility with these characters, and how to handle that? How do you approach it from I guess a legacy point of view in your thinking?
Yeah, you do, but I think from my perspective, one of the more interesting challenges is that everybody knows what the look and feel of Toy Story is really all about, but computer graphics has evolved in the last 20 years tremendously, and the kinds of imagery, the pictures that we create now are just phenomenally rich in detail and the motion and the characters, and to not have that in our current Toy Story would be wrong. It would feel lesser. And so I think one of the more interesting challenges over the years in working on all these different Toy Story forms has been the process of evolving the characters and the environments and the sets to really be current and modern and as expressive as what we would expect today, and still be completely familiar, so that nobody looks at Toy Story, you know, Buzz, Woody, Jessie now and say, those don't look like our characters.
Mm-hmm. Angus, you've kind of moved from being an animator, kind of an all-the-time hands-on guy doing character performance, and shorts has really become kind of a way for you to move into directing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I've been really fortunate to be in a situation I have a project that's just as a really good match and challenge for where I'm at. I started off with Bernie, which is mostly a silent film, dealing with a lot of assets from WALL-E, and then going on to Small Fry required to do a lot more voice work and deal with a story that was independent of having to fit into a feature. And then with Toy Story of Terror, it's a lot more voice work, a lot more character arcs, a lot more overall story structure. So it's been a fantastic way to learn each step of the way something different, and hopefully still make movies that all kind of reflect a similar sensibility that I like to bring to each of those worlds.
Mary Alice, you know, you've got to oversee a bunch of multiple productions, and Rob's involved in a lot of them, but how's John Lasseter involved in the work that you guys are doing?
Not at all, right?
John's actually very, very involved in the shorts. He helped start Pixar Canada, obviously is working very closely with Rob in the original shorts, but we see him quite a bit. He comes over and does meetings. He's very involved. I don't know, Rob, do you want to talk about that?
No, absolutely. Yeah, what I love about John's involvement is you can sit in a room with him and he will dissect it down to a 24th of a second. You know, the time travel Mater, I remember sitting there and he's like, take 2 frames off here, a frame off there on that side. Okay, you know, and just gets into the micro, but also the global, you know, so definitely a huge part of it.
And especially because these are characters John created, so he knows them so well, and so he loves seeing the worlds that we create, and he's just a great touchstone, but he's very, very involved, big fan of the shorts.
It's interesting, Rob being in the room with John is kind of like a master class training session in some regards. And I guess I'd ask Galen and Mary Alice in terms of how that trickles down with the crew people that work on these shorts, and what kind of training and opportunity and career things come out of that for them, and I guess for all of you, really.
It's great. I think it's a great exposure for everyone on our team. They get a lot of one-on-one time with John, and specifically, we were showing him something the other day, and he referenced things he had learned himself on some of the early shorts he was working on. And also shorts, like Galen said, you get to wear a lot of hats, so a lot of people get to jump in and play different roles with John, pitch ideas directly to John, and I think it's great exposure for our teams.
Also, I think that we get a lot of young new people who come into the studio, and oftentimes they do get an opportunity to really do something in the short form work. And you know, Toy Story is for many people something that they grew up on, and then they get to come into the studio and work on something Toy Story, and then to be able to learn from the master John. For them, it's a phenomenal experience. It's really exciting.
How do we come up with ideas for these films, these shorts?
Do you want?
How?
Well, for the Toy Story shorts, there was figured out a bunch of possible ideas of things we wanted to do. Small Fry came about ultimately because I'd done a drawing of a large Buzz Lightyear holding up a small Buzz Lightyear, and I wanted to do something with some sort of support group type situation, and those two worlds kind of melded together to make Small Fry, and John zeroed in, mostly because there was a toy truth that hadn't been explored yet in the Toy Story universe. All of the films, they focus on certain aspects, or they always draw in a thing of truth in the toy universe, just as in the car universe there's truths in the car universes. And having those truths is one less thing you have to explain to the audience. They're like, yeah, I get it. It's a fast food toy. And then they're able to be brought into the story a lot easier, and you can build off that idea, and it's just something to play against. Instead of having to invent something, if everything is new and exciting and imaginative, and there's nothing relatable about that thing, then it's really harder to base a story around that.
Genre is a huge thing, like your Toy Story. Once, our first short, we were kind of figuring out what we're trying to do, and Rescue Squadmator was the first. We would love to see fire trucks, okay, that sounds awesome. What is the genre? Let's look at 70s TV, rescue shows. And so we took the camera at work that they would do. And then it became that, like, what's another genre we like, film noir, so we did Vader Private Eye. And so that kind of dictates storytelling as well.
But it seems like stuff that you're excited about. I know for me, like everything that I'm working on and trying to base it on is something I'm genuinely really passionate about. I know it's the same way for features. Is that how the individual cartoons came about?
Yeah, I think so. And what's great about, because you can make a whole movie in like 5 minutes, right? You can take film noir or 70s TV show or a ET-esque UFO thing, and so yeah, that's fun about it.
I remember when you guys started on cartoons, you brought in all the interns in story and had a sort of brainstorm. Said, can you talk about that a little bit? It was
that's kind of where it started. Was I think I was working on Up probably, and we had some story interns, and John wanted to give them an assignment to brainstorm Cars things. So one of them was a rescue team. There was a lot of ideas that came out of that I worked with them, and we pitched them all to John, and he loved everything. That was the thing. It's like, I want to do all of them. And so we kind of selected some and developed them, and worked with a few different story artists, and we all kind of just went off on our own and developed them. And then we made them.
So what other cartoons are in the works now?
Oh yeah, we have some more cartoons in the works now. In fact, I think we have a clip of one. Yeah, we have 2 more in the works. One is called Radiator Springs 500 and a half, because Mater named it. That's where the half comes from. And then another one called To Protect and Serve. But I think we have a clip of the Radiator Springs 500 and a half, which is a Baja-style race that comes to Radiator Springs.
Right, and this will be in 2014, released on the Disney Channel.
That's a work in progress, kind of, as you said, it's kind of very low resolution. We work at lower resolutions until we get into the very final stages of completion, then we have to spend a lot of computer processing time to make the final images. And I didn't mention, but nobody's seen that before, so I hope nobody photographed it with their iPhone. I would appreciate it if you would not. That would be good.
But it's a really awesome short. It's so fun. It's our new favorite. And Scott Morris is the co-director on that, so he's been overseeing all the animation.
And that's Scott's first opportunity to direct at Pixar as well. It seems like we've had a lot of opportunity. But, you know, we haven't talked about it much, and it varies from short to short, but we have done a lot of technological innovation over the years in these shorts, and Gail, maybe you could touch on that a little bit. You were certainly around for some of the earlier key ones.
Where to start? There's a lot.
Maybe start with Jerry's Game, since that seemed to have such a...
Right, Jerry's Game was the first time we tried to do a human wearing clothing, and didn't have a lot of hair, fortunately. So developing skin is a really interesting thing to try to render on a computer, and we had done a lot of things like plastic and wood and, you know, hard surfaces. Skin has a depth to it that is just really hard to render on a computer and to figure out mathematically. So it was our first real efforts at skin, and then cloth, doing simulated cloth. And that was the beginning development that we incorporated on monsters. I think was the first feature that we used that simulation stuff for. Boo in particular, Boo's shirt, and then of course Boo's hair and Sullivan's hair. So that's pretty common, leading really all the way up into Blue Umbrella, which I don't know how many people here have seen. Blue Umbrella. It's really beautiful. I'm not certain that everybody is 100% aware that Blue Umbrella, there is no live action. That is 100% computer generated, and just the exploration there in terms of new tools, new lighting tools, the rendering of rain in that environment, it's really spectacular. So shorts have had that kind of, it's a great opportunity.
I get to see it, I just don't think they're going to let us do that, so thank you for...
So, as I said, we wanted to leave plenty of time to, if people have questions, so why don't we jump in on that? Anybody have any questions? I think I'll come around with a microphone if you have one. There's one right there.
You just pass the mic out.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Look at that.
This question is for each of you. What is your favorite Pixar short that you have not worked on?
I'm sorry, who's the question for?
What's a favorite Pixar short for each of you?
Oh, for each of us, okay. Favorite Pixar short that you've worked on?
Have worked on it? Have not.
Apostrophe T.
Ooh. Probably Small Fry.
Yes, I was just curious, what's the number of crew you have compared to a small production, compared to a big production, in number-wise?
What's the number of crew? The question was
Yeah, between small production compared to a big production.
For the TV special, that's sort of a medium and in-between production, and at peak we got to
I'm looking for numbers.
we got to about 100 people at peak on Toy Story of Terror. I think at peak a feature usually gets up to about 275, 300 at a time.
Yes.
Obviously there's more people who work on it, but they're not all on at the same time because it's a longer time frame.
With Small Fry, I laughed for probably 20 minutes into the feature over the names of some of those Happy Meal characters in the support group. How did you come up with them, and were they as funny to you as you were coming up?
The names for the question is how do we come up with the names for the Small Fry toys? I had a list that I wrote in a moleskin in my back pocket, and I would just keep writing down names that we wanted to put into it. And we cut together as many as we could and boarded them all out and just cut the ones that weren't getting laughs. So, you know, I don't know, I like stupid puns. So,
I want action figures.
there was, I wanted to, just those who don't know, there is a Small Fry Buzz Lightyear action figure available downstairs. Hopefully they still have some. They're really, really super high quality. They're from the original digital files. As far as having more, yes, I would love to have the full support group with Beef Stewardess, Lizard Wizard, Taekwondo, Taekwondo is very similar to Bambi's mom if you look closely. Let me see who else. There's Yeah, the Funky Monk. There is the train. Yeah, Vampire Express, whatever. Yeah, so we want to have the full assortment. I hope they make them eventually, and with the Mini Buzz and the Big Buzz Lightyear. But right now, I mean, it was just stuff that made us laugh, and we just like coming up with funny characters. And that was the idea behind that was like, let's see how many different characters we can make, and just cut to, because that's a lot of, honestly, a lot of budget to make those characters. But, Pixar Canada did a fantastic job making all those characters. They look beautiful. And the digital files would make terrific toys. Yes. But T-Bone, leader of the Steak Force, that transformation is not technically legal. There's some cheating involved. But yes, it doesn't actually fit back into full steak as much as I would have liked.
Another question over here?
Most of the DVD releases have something that's sort of from the film, a little side, whether it be, Your Friend the Rat being from Ratatouille and so on and so forth. You kind of freaked us out yesterday by showing Party Central and saying it wasn't going to be part, because everyone's kind of expecting it was going to be part of the release for your latest film. Is there going to be an extension of the Monsters University world as a DVD bonus when Monsters University comes out on Blu-ray?
I'm not sure what all of the extras will be on that, but when we were producing Party Central, we actually had thought at one point in time we might put that on the DVD, but we liked it so much we kind of wanted to put it out for theatrical and then add it to the DVD as well. There's other bonus materials. I think there may be some deleted scenes or some clips that didn't end up in, but I'm trying to remember for sure because we were still finalizing. Over here.
My question was, how did Pixar producers create the characters from Blue Umbrella, or like the characters of the windows, the water or the lights?
In
the Blue Umbrella short.
The character modeling in that was very similar to what we do for all of our shorts. It was just that the approach in terms of how it was filmed and how it was rendered, that made it look so much more like a live action. It was just a specific aesthetic choice. A lot of the tools that went into it were the same things that we do for all of our characters, other than the lighting tool, which was new for us.
One of the things that was new about Blue Umbrella was there's a new approach to lighting that sort of more accurately simulates real-world lighting. It calculates the way the light bounces off of everything, makes things look a little more realistic, and so it was a technology we tried on that, and it helps make that look more photorealistic and more like something you'd see in the real world.
Clarifying that it allows you to, but it doesn't demand that you to. So again, all of these things end up being the aesthetic choice of the people who are working on the project, the director in particular.
There's
back there.
I was curious about the profit structure of the shorts, and if Pixar actually makes money off of them, or is it more name and brand building, or you're trying out new technologies? How does that work?
Are you looking to get into the shorts business?
I am currently unemployed and available. And I'm sexy to boot, so.
Generally speaking, we kind of go into them assuming that we're gonna not make money, or actually, to put it more accurately, that we're going to lose a bunch of money. We have looked at them traditionally as a place for artists to expand their skills or maybe step up and play a different role. We've looked at them as a place to sort of expand the storytelling in certain of the, if it's Toy Story or cartoons. And we do it for kind of a little bit nostalgia, kind of love of having a short in front of a movie in the cinema, because some of us were old enough to experience that when we were kids. So there's sort of this mix of things. Though we have, in some cases, been able to compile them into a DVD Blu-ray, and and sell those. And I wouldn't say it's become a break-even proposition for us, but that does kind of take the sting off a little bit. So it's something we do because we believe that it has a lot of value in all those other areas, so we continue to do it. And
it's an investment. It's an investment in people and growing the people, and investment in our technology and growing our technology. It's not, you don't make money off of going to college. You learn a lot so that you can be profitable and you can grow and you can do so much more later, right? So it's an investment.
I think it's also a brand investment, just as far as like value. Like if you go to the theater and you're used to seeing a Pixar short and it's funny and it's enjoyable, like that's why you're into the work. Like you like that. That's cool. And we do stuff that we're excited and passionate about, and the shorts are something we're passionate about, and we get a lot out of it. That is like. I know personally, I just learned a ton and had a great opportunity to make funny little stories, and to get to share them and be the thing like, oh yeah, did you see that weird short about the small crazy Buzz Lightyear? I mean, it's fun to do, and it's fun to talk about.
And you sell them later.
And eventually we might sell them, but it takes a while. It takes a while. Oh, but it's 3? What?
1 and 2, volume 1 and 2 is 3 coming out soon.
Oh, shorts.
I don't know what the release schedule is on that. We have to have a bunch of them to stick together before we can do that. So
we're working as fast as we can.
Work fast.
yeah, that's what Lassiter says to us.